Hey guys, Abel here, back with another video. And if you want to be lean, if you want to stay lean, but you're already freaking out because you know that Christmas celebration is coming up and all the high calorie, super tasty foods are gonna destroy all your cuts, then this video is for you. This is something that I'm getting a lot of questions about almost on a daily basis. Abel, how do you incorporate eating out and social meals and things like that while staying lean? And I can understand why this is something that stresses people out. These days, I'm managing to stay lean for most of the year. I'm pretty much keeping my six-pack all the time, sometimes only 2 of them, sometimes all 6 of them, but I do keep my abs while eating out pretty much all the time, at least once a week. But it did used to stress me out. At times, I did not eat out for months at a time to make staying leaner easier. Other times, I gave in eventually and I went on all-out binges. Neither one of these options are good. So in this video, I want to give you some simple tips that you can use to eat out, be a social person, but also keep your hard-earned leanness. The reality is that being in an environment with a lot of hyper-palatable, super calorie-dense foods does have the potential to make you overeat, and sometimes you will overeat. But one thing that I always like to remind people of is that one of the biggest skills that we all need to master on our fitness journey is not turning small slip-ups into giant disasters. The truth is, sometimes you will overeat when you eat out, but if you can stay at a caloric maintenance or be over by 1,000 calories, even 1,500 calories versus 5,000 calories, then sometimes that can be just as big of a win as hitting your calories and macros perfectly for a week on a super strict fat loss phase. And if over the course of your fitness journey, you can accumulate these small wins consistently, then that can make the difference between you getting and maintaining your goal physique versus failing to accomplish that. So in this video, what I really want to do is give you a simple framework which you can use whatever your goals might be, whether you're cutting or maintaining or lean gaining, and whatever the occasion is, whether it's the biggest Christmas celebration of all time, or whether it's just some random weekday where a coworker is suggesting to grab a couple of donuts after work. So we're gonna do something which we only do when things are getting serious, and we are gonna bring in a flip chart. Oh, damn, look at that. As you can see, we have a pyramid here. Smart people these days into fitness like pyramids, so I decided to bring you one, and guess what? I drew it myself. So as you can see, this pyramid is divided into 3 parts, and this represents the hierarchy of importance when it comes to factors that determine how big of a damage you will make when you're eating out. Of course, needless to say, the entire goal of this whole thing is to manage the total caloric influx when you're eating out. And as such, at the bottom of this pyramid, the biggest, most important layer is the decisions that you make when you're actually at the event, when you're at the restaurant or at the friend's place who is making food. That has the biggest impact on the total number of calories, because literally the decisions you make here can be a matter of many thousands of calories. I don't know about you, but if I really want to go for it, I could easily put down 6,000 calories in a restaurant, or I could also put down only 1,500 calories if I'm a bit more mindful. The second layer of this pyramid is about saving up calories, so creating a bit of a caloric buffer when you're eating out. If you have a dinner at 8 p.m. and you're going there with 1,500 calories left from your daily quote-unquote budget, of course, it will make it easier to not overeat when you're eating out. This will have a lower impact than the first layer because the decisions you make here will be only a matter of a couple of hundred calories to 1,000 or 2,000 calories. And then the top layer is exercising. So, having a good workout before you go out to eat or something like that, which of course can help to burn some extra calories or maybe trigger some extra muscle growth, which will by definition lower the amount of calories that can be partitioned to storing fat. This has the lowest impact out of all 3 layers because you just cannot burn that many calories during working out. And honestly, this is almost more so for the soul and us feeling better about ourselves than about any meaningful practical relevance. And of course, it's also important to point out that all 3 layers of this pyramid are interacting with one another and are interrelated. So yes, the bottom layer of this pyramid is the most important, but if you really screw up the top 2 layers, that can have an influence on the bottom layer. So for example, you might have all the right intentions about making the right decisions when you're eating out, but if you're starving yourself to a ridiculous extent, so you didn't eat for 36 hours before the event to save up even more calories, and then you're crushing yourself into the ground before the event with a crazy workout, then you might go to the event feeling like a complete zombie, deprived and just not mindful whatsoever, and you're gonna go on an all-out binge. And then, of course, that's gonna make it hard to not accumulate a shit ton of calories when you're in the restaurant. So the hierarchy and the order of importance does apply, but we have to use some sort of common sense when we are applying this. And of course, needless to say, I want to couch this with a caveat that I want you to not develop an eating disorder while you're using this. So yes, we could make this practically irrelevant if you're fasting for 3 days before you go out to eat, but you know, that could have problems in the long term if you develop a binge eating disorder. So let's start with the bottom layer first, the decisions you make when you're eating out. The first thing that I always like to remind people of is that whatever restaurant you go to, you can always look at a menu and you will see a range of options. And those options will go all the way from this is something that I can eat even on the most rapid fat loss phase where I'm super strict, all the way to this is what I would eat if I wanted to go for a 10,000 calorie challenge. Whatever the restaurant is, you can always find a salad and some leaner protein source. And then of course, when it comes to calorie density, the sky is the limit in a restaurant. So you can always find higher and higher calorie options. Whatever your goals are, however strict you are in that given phase, it's always good to go to a social event with some sort of a plan and some sort of a structure that you can follow. Okay, a structure and a plan doesn't mean being super strict and rigid, but at least having some sort of an idea of what you're going to do. For example, a simple framework that I like to follow when I'm going out is I'm going to have a salad usually before the main dish. Typically, I will ask the waiter to put the dressing on the side. It's not the end of the world if you have some nice dressing on the salad, but some of the salads that I saw in some restaurant had so much oil and mayo and things like that on top of it that I looked at it and I was like, if I'm gonna be having this much fat, then I might as well go for a pizza. And then after the salad, I will go for a main dish, and the main dish will differ based on what my goals are at the time and how strict I am. If I'm cutting, if I want to lose fat, then I will be a bit more strict and I will go for some leaner protein source like a chicken, steak or something like that, and some grilled veggies or a salad on the side. And if I'm not strict, if I'm not dieting, then I may go for some fries and a fattier steak or something like that. And then with the meal, I will usually have 1 or 2 glasses of dry wine. I will enjoy that. That will be awesome. And I basically never go for dessert after the meal because I just found from experience that if I have a dessert after a really nice, big, satisfying meal, then it just kind of resets my appetite, it ramps up my cravings, and it almost ruins the nice satisfaction that I got from my main dish. So that is the simple framework that I use. It works. I've been doing it for years at this point, and it helps me to stay lean and to enjoy myself when I'm eating out. For you, it might be something slightly different. If you don't know where to start, you can use the same framework that I'm using. And I would also like to mention that if you're going out to a friend's place, or maybe you have a potluck dinner somewhere, or it's a Christmas celebration at home, then of course the structure will be a little bit different because you're not ordering things from the menu. Then I would suggest to simply pick a couple of dishes that look the best, that you would like to try the most. Go for those, enjoy yourself with those, and limit the number of options or the number of dishes that you're going to try. The goal here is not necessarily to limit the total number of servings that you get from a particular dish, but to limit total options, because basically our brain is wired to seek variety. And the bigger the variety is, the more calories we will consume. So if you go for this dish and then that dish and then you return to this dish, then the chances of you putting down a lot of calories and not necessarily even being that satisfied is going to be a lot higher. Okay, next one, saving up calories. So once again, creating a caloric buffer is going to be helpful. And the main thing here is to save up calories, but don't starve yourself to a ridiculous extent. So if the dinner is at 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. and you go there and didn't eat all day, and by the time you get there, you can think of nothing else but food, and you're nervous and anxious, and where is the waiter? Where can I get my food finally? Then it's going to be very, very hard to control yourself. And even if you do manage to control yourself, the whole event kind of just sucks because you're not even able to enjoy the company of others around you. You can only think of when can you finally fill up your belly. So save up calories, but don't starve yourself. And the easiest way to accomplish this is to eat your other meals at the regular times, but go for lower calorie options. The way that I like to accomplish this is to simply reduce the fat content of my meals in the other meals that I'm eating during the day. The biggest issue typically with meals out in restaurants is the fat content of those meals. Of course, they are also loaded with sugar and starch, but there is only so much sugar and starch that you can squeeze into a meal before it starts tasting weird. But fats, you can squeeze in so much of that into a tiny, tiny space, and it's just incredible how many calories you can put into a tiny portion. So that is usually the biggest issue. So if you just go for lower fat options in earlier meals and potentially even in meals in the subsequent day, then that's a very effective way of saving up calories. So me, for example, if I will have a dinner at 8 p.m., then I will have my normal breakfast, my normal lunch, but it will just be a lower fat and sometimes lower carb variant. And in the following day, if you feel like you created some quote unquote damage during the event, then you can kind of repeat this strategy for your meals on that day as well. And one of the easiest ways to accomplish this is to simply go by hunger, because if you overate by a lot the previous day, then you will be just naturally less hungry the next day. And then finally, we have exercise. And once again, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Even if you have the workout of your life before a big dinner, it's not going to change the game completely. Yes, you will build some muscle, and in general, it's fun to at least build some muscle if you're gonna gain some fat as well, but it's not going to make or break the whole thing. Simply not overeating by a ton when you're eating out is going to be a way bigger game changer than having a good workout. But it is good for the soul, and it can make you feel a bit better about yourself when you're eating out. Which of course can become a bit of a slippery slope, because it can lead to some justification and some thought process whereby you go, well, I worked out, so this is all gonna go to muscle, which of course is a bit delusional, so don't go for that. But nevertheless, it can be useful to have a good workout before you eat out. Stimulate some muscle protein synthesis, you're gonna build some muscle if you're going to overeat, and of course you can also burn some extra calories, which will mitigate the damage that you might be doing out there. So guys, this is a simple framework. These are the 3 things that you can do to mitigate the damage that you're doing when you're eating out, and depending on what your goals are, you may be tightening up or loosening up some elements of this. If you're having a Christmas celebration and you're not trying to lose fat, you're not really that worried about gaining some body fat, then you might be very loose here at the bottom layer, and you might still apply these things in the top 2 layers to mitigate some damage. And if you're on a fat loss phase, you're really concerned about not ruining your progress, then you might be tightening these things up even more, and then you might be still in a calorie deficit or at caloric maintenance or something like that when you're eating out, and it's not going to be a big deal. And one thing to also emphasize is that no matter what fitness influencer you're looking at, if you're seeing a person who has a great physique, who stays very, very lean and is seemingly eating out all the time and is enjoying all kinds of delicious junk foods, they still have to use this framework if they're gonna make it work. There is no magic in fitness. Energy balance and calorie balance is what's going to dictate whether you're gaining fat or not gaining fat. So if someone is eating out and is staying lean, that by definition means that they are using this very framework. Maybe they are just starving themselves for days and then they go out and go for an all-out binge, and that's what you're seeing. Or maybe they are not actually eating what they're showing you and they are just taking pictures of food and or giving you false promises. But nevertheless, I hope these tips were useful and it will make you a little bit less worried and concerned when the upcoming feasting period is coming up. No matter what your goals are, I'm wishing you all the best for managing these events. And with that, I want to thank you for your attention. For more content like this, consider subscribing to the channel, like the video if you liked it, let me know what you thought in the comment section. And if you want to be working together with me, then you can find information about my coaching in the description below. That's all I wanted to say in this video. And with that, me and my flip chart are thanking you for your attention. See you in the next video.